We are live on location with Sarita Parmar of Sarita Parmar Coaching and Consulting. We're going to talk about a little bit of personal development for business development. I believe you're going to take me in that direction. So I'm really excited. Sarita, great to have you here on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeff.
Yeah. And I'm excited to talk to you because when I first met you, we started talking about some business coaching and development.
Yeah.
And one of the things that really got my attention and that I thought was really interesting is you work on the people for a business. So a business's employees, you'll work with them to improve themselves, to work on themselves, which in turn helps the business overall.
Yes.
And so, so I want to dive right into that.
That's
I want
part
to
of
hear
it.
about
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
For sure. It's funny because, there are a lot of different things. So there is the business coaching piece and advisory services. So I help a lot of entrepreneurs. Let's say they might have an idea. I actually have a contract with an organization called Community Futures of British Columbia. So they offer various programs, and then they sometimes outsource some advisory services, consulting services. So first of all, I grew up in the banking world. And so I love working with small business owners, medium-sized business owners, and startups too. Banks don't typically work with startups. And so I was exposed to a lot of coaching through the Community Futures organizations. And say somebody has an idea. A lot of times they have this idea and they want to rush into business without laying a proper foundation. That's where a coach will come in. And that's where a business plan comes in. You know, one thing we always say is you wouldn't construct a house or build a house without blueprints. And that business plan is your blueprint. So that's for the startups. Then there's people that perhaps have been in business for a number of years and they're past that startup stage, but they've got gaps in the foundation, we'll call it. Or maybe they want to take their business to the next level. So essentially, where are you at? What are your goals? Where would you like to get through? And then I offer general business coaching services.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And you also have a little bit of stuff that I read that you help people like figure out how to manage their time and focus on what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's something that is like really difficult for me is keeping focused on whatever task you're doing.
Yeah.
Because you're constantly like you'll receive a text message from someone or you'll receive an email and you feel like, man, I need to stop what I'm doing in order to, address this and then you're into stuff like invoicing and billing and you've got to like quote other projects and then you've got to schedule them. And there's so much stuff that just takes so much extra time. And that focus bit is the part that I find it's so difficult to keep your focus when you're running a business.
Yeah.
And when you're trying to specifically when you're trying to get jobs done and projects done, right?
Yeah.
Pulled in different directions. What's one of the things that you help people with to kind of just maintain that focus and avoid the distractions of life?
Yeah. So no, that's awesome. And you're not alone with that, right? Like we are all pulled in 1,000 different directions, and especially business owners, right? We are wearing multiple hats. And so we touched a little bit about the coaching and advisory services I offer to business owners. The other part of my business is speaking. And so what I mean by that is delivering keynotes to organizations as well as workshops. Now, a lot of my workshops are focused on burnout prevention while meeting your goals, while maximizing productivity. And I put that in air quotes because that can look different for everybody. Just like success looks different for everybody. It's not the traditional money means success, right? So what I do is one of my core workshops is actually around personal energy management. And in there, I talk about different pillars. One of them being personal well-being or self-care. Overused word, I know, but self-care means different things to different people. Time management is one of the pillars that I talk about in there as well. And it's for me, I think it's really understanding your own values, why you're doing what you're doing. What can you delegate? Because there are things, you mentioned invoicing. And It's funny, I laughed earlier, even though you were talking about yourself, because I do invoicing for my partner's business, right? So I guess he's delegated that to me, but so that's where I was going with it. Can you eliminate something? Can you delegate to somebody? Focus on, I say, know yourself, make a list of your values. What is important to you, right? Like I said earlier, why are you doing what it is that you're doing? Make a list of those priorities and schedule time. What gets scheduled gets done. And in the past, I may have mentioned to you, I call it structured hustle. Like when I was in the corporate world, it was all about just a rat race, climbing up the corporate ladder. People wear busyness and burnout like this badge of honor. And after going through a health scare, my whole perspective changed. And I redefined what the heck success means to me. And so when you talk about focus, it's funny because I did do a LinkedIn post the other day. And I always say this, people talk about time. Yes, we all have time, but people don't talk enough about protecting your energy, protecting your focus. So that's why I say, go back to the priorities, schedule it. That's your time. And it takes energy. And a lot of times I find myself doing something. I talk to myself a lot. And one of the things I find myself asking is this the best use of my time and energy? So when you talk about focus, we live in a world, I'm sure all your viewers watching, there's so many demands, everything is urgent. But just because it's urgent doesn't mean it's important, right? And this is where, when I do my structured hustle, I will do some time blocking. Say 2 hours where I know I'm focusing on deep work. It could be content for an upcoming workshop, a keynote or presentation I'm delivering. And what I do is I put my phone in do not disturb mode. And I also have the Calm app, and they have something called, I don't remember what it's called, but music for focus. So I will put that on, and it's like the brain just knows it's time to focus. So if my phone is like, it doesn't ping because all my notifications are off. And sometimes what helps me too is if I tuck my phone away so I can't pick it up, because that's another bad habit I've developed in keeping my phone on do not disturb. I find I'm constantly reaching for it to see if a client responded to an email or if anybody needs me for anything. And so sometimes what I'll do is I'll tuck it behind my computer so it's not within sight, but I can still hear that music and I just focus on what I need to.
That is really interesting. I love that concept of, you have to put the phone away first of all, because that's my biggest thing is I'll have it sitting. I have one of those stand-up chargers that you can see, right?
Oh,
you can see the screen. So, I'm always using it so I can see the clock. But then you see that like Instagram notification might come up. And when that comes up, you're like, oh, I wonder what that's up. Did somebody post something interesting? Is it funny? Is it interesting? Is it, or is it just like a friend sending me something that he wants me to see? And I find it's way too easy to get pulled into something like that. And before you know it, you just spent 10 or 15 minutes scrolling through totally unrelated and unimportant stuff. And that's where I lose my focus. And have you ever picked up your phone and like gone onto Facebook or something and just scrolled for no reason and then said to yourself, oh, I need to shut this off.
Yes.
And swipe it away and then realize like a minute later, you just opened it back up again?
Yeah. Or
what's up with that?
100%. And I do the same thing. Been there, done that, still do that. Or sometimes what'll happen is I pick up my phone to do something. Maybe it's to make a note in my notes app or send an email or Google something, and I get distracted. So even though my notes don't, my phone doesn't ping because I have the sound off, for some social media, I still have notifications on because I also do social media and marketing for my partner's business. And so I feel like we need to respond quickly if somebody's calling with a honey order or something like that. And I do get distracted and I'll do something or I'll scroll like you're saying, something catches my eye and I put my phone down And I'm like, oh, wait, I didn't do the thing I picked up my phone for. So
Yeah.
we are all guilty of it. And I think the key is, one, just becoming aware of it, right? And some days we'll have more focus and more motivation. But one, it's become aware of it. If you're not aware of it, you can't change it. And two, repetition is very important, right? Training your brain. If you, again, you become aware of it, acknowledge it, talk to yourself. You're going into focus, you're only doing Instagram. And it might sound silly. You're going in just to respond to your Instagram messages and putting it away. And you can check your phone in an hour or whatever the case may be. So it's just constantly serving that narrative to your brain.
Yeah.
And eventually it'll land. And then some days it won't.
Yeah. Something else that you said was really interesting. You were talking about, was it scheduling your tasks? So like I schedule jobs and projects all the time. I'm like, okay, between, like today, right? 10:30, right?
Yeah.
10:30 to 11:30, we're going to do this.
Yes.
But I don't actually have time scheduled to do the work, to do the editing, right? So I'll schedule the hour, but what I do need to do now is I need to take that and say, now there's going to be like 4 hours of editing on top of that.
Yeah.
And that's something I never thought of. I just find time to do it like in the evenings or on a weekend.
You just sort
and
of
I'm
fit it
catching
in.
up.
And so that's the other thing. And I know you're really good at what you do. If people haven't checked this guy out, check out his videos on YouTube. He's making one for me too. Stay tuned. So, I want to just talk about burnout for a second too. People think burnout comes from you're working for somebody else and you are, again, pulled in different directions and it's not your own priorities. We can also burn out from the things we love and we're good at. So when I hear you say, if I've had a busy week, sometimes I have to fit that editing in on a weeknight or the weekend. So now what you're doing is taking time away from when you could be being chased by zombies on an elliptical, family time, friends time, whatever that is. And so one thing I've also found helpful is I don't like scheduling meetings on a Friday. And I know like sometimes you have to make your schedule according to when a client needs you. If you have to fly somewhere to shoot a wedding or somebody's doing a big event on a Friday night or a Saturday night, I get that. But you usually know at least a week in advance what you've got coming up, if not longer, hopefully longer.
Yeah.
And what I would suggest is pick one day where you don't take meetings, and that day could change every week. Or you say Tuesday afternoon, Thursday afternoon, I'm not taking meetings because that's editing time. And one of my clients, and I've shared this with people too, she has a very demanding job at the college. And not only does she have a demanding job, she's a people manager and has a whole team that relies on her to do their job. So of course you have to be accessible to your team. What she told me is she actually blocks Tuesday afternoon and Thursday afternoon, puts it in the shared calendar. Her whole team knows she's not available. And she uses that time to do whatever it is that she needs to do.
Oh. Wow,
And
I love that idea.
I think it depends on, the industry, your clients, the type of work that we do, but there are workarounds it. Yeah.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
Sunday's another day. If people ask me to do something Sunday, the answer is usually no.
Yeah.
I need that one day to rest or rot, or if I go somewhere, it's my choice. But I usually don't like committing to anything on a Sunday.
For sure. Yeah. Something else you said that really kind of struck with me was you said something might be urgent, but it might not be important. Right. And that was really interesting because that actually happened to me this morning. I had quoted a job and, I had all the dates out and I had the prices out. And I got this email back and it said, we're going to be starting this right away, but we've changed the dates and we need to now know your availability. And because the times have changed, we need to know the prices as well.
Yeah.
And we need this like as soon as possible. So now I'm at home and I've got my coffee beside me and I'm sitting there with my wife and I just want to relax, right?
Yeah.
Relax for the morning and just kind of have the morning just kind of lead into the next project. But I had to do this. I felt like I had to do this right
Yeah.
now. Like I was told it needs to be done as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, it's important and it's urgent on their part, but it's
Yeah.
probably something that I could have pushed off until the afternoon, right?
Right.
Or done
Yeah.
another time. But I felt at that moment that I needed to do it right now,
Yeah.
right?
And I think a lot of us feel that way. And what I'll say to that is, as cheesy as this sounds, think about the power of the pause. Just pause. So many times we feel like we need to respond immediately. We don't. My daughter ran into something similar where it was this babysitting opportunity. And the way the adult asking her to babysit handled that situation was very poor, because an adult shouldn't be putting their emergency or their lack of planning should not become a 16-year-old girl's emergency.
Yeah.
Now, while you're not a 16-year-old girl, same principles apply. It goes back to what are the priorities. And there are going to be that times where something else gets moved so that you're able to accommodate them. And sometimes it just requires a simple conversation, depending on what it is. But ultimately, you get to decide. And like I said, there are going to be times where you're like, oh, crap, I wanted to enjoy my coffee with my beautiful wife. And now, I can't even enjoy my coffee and I got to reshuffle things around. Maybe. But do you have to?
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny. One of my sisters, she's actually a counselor, and they went away, and she was sharing a story with me. I don't even remember what the heck we were talking about, but she shared a message she sent somebody, and I just said to her, "I'm very proud of you for being honest." And she said, "I believe there's always a way to be honest and do it kindly." And yeah, it sounds very simple, but I think we don't have to kill ourselves in order to please others and what's important to them.
Yeah.
It sucks, but then when you think about what you're giving up,
Yeah.
maybe your wife was going away for a week and that was the only time the two of you had together.
Yeah.
Maybe that you had booked that day to do editing or something. You get to decide though, but don't feel bad. And that's what I'll tell people. I'm a recovering people pleaser, so I still need those reminders, and I think I'm doing them a disservice by saying yes.
Oh yeah.
Because it builds resentment. And you find, what I have found is when I'm my authentic self and I just share my situation and I'm honest, I'm not responsible for how they react.
That's really good. I like that. And when you said like that resentment there, that's kind of how I felt afterwards. I was like, this is something that I'm quoting on.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something where they've already got the numbers, but they changed the dates and stuff. And they haven't even hired me yet. It's just, so I gave up this 20 minutes of, coffee with my wife. Now they better hire me, right? They better hire me for that project because I did that right now, And recovering people pleaser. I feel like my business depends on that. It depends on me being available, being accommodating, right? Being, if you send me a message, you're going to get a response right away, or if you need something, I'm going to do it as quickly as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, a little bit of that needs to be kind of like scheduled a little bit better or planned, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the most difficult things for me.
And you aren't alone in that either. We all struggle with that, right? And again, especially when you're a business owner or you're managing a book of business, a large part of our schedules are dependent on the client's needs. And one of the things as well, I had a thought. What did I want to share about that? Is setting client expectations. Mm-hmm. And so one of the other things that I talk about in my workshops and when I speak is the importance of setting boundaries. And I don't always like that word because I think it can kind of have a little bit of a negative connotation, but I can shift that a little bit to say communication is very important. And, when I was in banking, I remember a manager said to me, even if you don't have the loan approved, because, there was a whole approval process, I put the package together, send it off to my credit department, now I'm waiting on them. They may come back and say, we need this, we need that. Or that loan application for my business client is in the queue. Well, if you're my client and you're like, Sarita, I need to buy some new podcast equipment. What the hell? Like, what's taking you so long? And I just disappear and you don't hear from me for a week. You're going to be like, what's up? Like what's going on with this incompetent banker? But what really helped me was sometimes just checking in with the client and saying, hey, still no news yet, but I learned there's 3 files ahead of you. So I don't have a yes or a no, an approval or a decline for you, or an approval subject to conditions yet, but you will know and you can reset expectations. So that communication is really important. But when I talk about boundaries, communication, another thing that I have suggested to many people is, say you are working on an important project and you can't be disturbed. People email you. You could put your auto reply on to say, I am out of the office. I am out of town for the next 3 days and will be slow to respond to messages. Or, I only check my messages between 12 and 4. Please expect a response at that time or within those hours. So now what you're doing is you're communicating in a kind, respectful way, right? Again, you're saying, this is what I do, and you're training your clients. If I email this guy, or, you could say, if it's an emergency, call my cell. No one's going to call your cell.
Yeah. You had mentioned burnout, and you mentioned earlier you can get burnt out from doing stuff you love. Have you ever experienced that?
Yes.
Yeah? From doing stuff you love?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. It goes back to also managing energy. And it's funny because I joke with my partner, like, he is even keel. He's the calm to my chaos. And I'm like this. And so I'm very energetic, use up my energy, and then I kind of crash. So I can be excited about something and talk 1,000 miles a minute. And do you know what I mean? And then I go home and I am exhausted. Like, I could do a podcast, be super excited, and then say, today I don't, but I also don't do back-to-back meetings anymore for that reason, even though I love supporting clients with their goals. Somebody can become burnt out if you don't schedule time to take care of yourself too. And what I mean by that is, we talk about scheduling and time management. One of the things that has, that's probably been the best investment for me health-wise is, or just overall, is investing in a personal trainer.
Oh, yeah.
So my trainer, love her. She comes to my house 3 times a week.
You have time for that?
I have. You make time.
You have to.
It is so funny. My daughter went late to school today and she was talking. She said something and she's like, I don't have time for that. I think I was telling her she's very anxious sometimes with her grades and how she does in school.
Yeah.
And so, I guess I have to be mindful of the time, and not everything can be a teaching moment, which I'm learning. But she's already stressed. And I just said, Jaya, I said, I think if you didn't go on your phone first thing in the morning and you just took time to take some deep breaths. And she was like, I don't have time for that. And then, of course, I should have just shut up and let her be. And I just said, the people who say they don't have time are the ones that need it the most.
It's true.
So what I find, though, is I actually book my meetings around my training. You know what I said, going back to your values and your priorities about what's important to you?
Yeah.
So in 2018, I was diagnosed with an aggressive form of breast cancer. Went through very, very aggressive treatment. And coming out of that, again, as cliche as it might sound, it causes a person to reevaluate their priorities. And also my definition of success changed. And what I learned from that time was I do need to invest in myself. And people say, my husband is the most important person in my life. My children are the most important. Yes, they can be. But if you're not there, you're no good to your husband, children, family, friends, loved ones, clients. You're good to nobody.
That's like putting on the mask on the plane
on the
first,
airplane.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. You're no good to anyone if you don't put it on first and
Exactly.
you're passed out on that.
And another thing that I cherish, which I've gotten away from, is waking up before my family so that I have time to enjoy my coffee in peace.
Okay.
The days that I don't do that, I'm more impatient with everybody. Well, everybody being Neil and Jaya. Those two poor souls get the brunt of my anger. But the other thing is when I work out, like it's only half an hour. I don't even do an hour. I do half an hour strength training and we go hard in that time. But the results of it are what fuel me. And because I know I walk away with more clarity, I walk away feeling a little bit more confident, I can handle the other things that I need to handle. But if I don't do that, if I don't work out, again, I am a little bit bitchier.
Oh, we're gonna have to beat that out.
Okay, sorry. If I don't work out, I do find I am less patient. Things get to me a little bit more, where when I take that time to invest in myself, and it's not just the morning workout, sometimes I go through my week and I might not be feeling good. I might be feeling low on energy. And so I might have a list of what I call priorities that I need to get done. Again, I will pause and be like, what is it that I need right now? And sometimes it's just going into my room, locking my door, and maybe I do need to just take a time out. I could read a book, I can scroll on social media, write in my journal, whatever the heck I need, talk to a friend. Usually what I find I do is if I'm feeling certain feelings and I don't want to take it out on my family and friends, I will just withdraw. And it's not in an unhealthy way. It's like a timeout, just to regroup.
Yeah. I heard somebody one time talking about time, and somebody wanted them to do a project, or they wanted them to do some work for them, and they wanted them to do it for free. And they said, come on, it's only your time. Right? Yeah. Your eyes open
You
up.
saw my eyes bulge.
Right? Yeah. I think about that. They're asking you for the one thing you can't get any more back of.
Yeah.
Right? So your time is like your most valuable resource, and you want to protect it, and you want to savor every moment you have of it.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where all that other stuff ties into it as well, right? Like when I talk about, yes, it's the time management, but when I talk about communication and boundaries, that's very important. So I delivered a workshop to some college students. Like it was a program out of a post-secondary institution in Kelowna. And so they were like, most of them were like graphic design students. So it was like an art college. And when I was speaking to I think she was the program director. And so she said, a lot of times what happens is a friend or a family member will be like, oh, just quickly look at this, right? And they don't realize it's not just a little thing, similar to your editing, right? Like we think, well, not everybody, the people that can respect the arts and exactly what you do know that if you're shooting a video, that's not the hardest part. It's the editing that comes afterwards, right? So if somebody's looking for like a new logo, or hey, do this with my social media, or whatever it is, they just think it's no big deal. You're my friend or family member. Like, why can't you just do it, right? Or make a proposal for something. And so we chatted about that. And so I built ways to kindly say no into that workshop as well. And it's like, here's what I'm working on. And it's a big contract that's going to give me a lot of money. I only have this much time to look at it. How about you do this, you do the first draft, and I'm happy to offer some input, like as an example. Like it's saying no, but with a twist.
Yeah.
For those of us who can't just go, no. Again, the recovering people pleaser. And I know there's so many people out there that say no is a complete sentence. And maybe it is, but for me, it isn't. I wish it was, but it's not. And so it's sort of like, well, I can't do that, but here's what I can do.
Oh, yeah.
And some of
Oh,
that
yeah.
might even be introducing them to a contact that you have.
Yeah, right.
I'm at capacity. I wish I could help you. Or, you know what? I can't get to this until next month.
Yeah. I want to jump back to
Yeah.
because you brought up a speaker reel. And
Hint, hint, no.
yeah, one of the things you do is speak on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. Because, okay, I'm just going to say why I want to talk about that, because it terrifies me. I am not
Yeah.
getting myself in front of the camera to do
Yeah.
this type of thing was like so difficult to get myself on camera.
Yeah.
I've done it a few times now, so I feel a lot more comfortable with it.
Mhm.
Stage, I was asked to follow Alex McKenzie out on stage.
Oh,
He's a
yeah.
local comedian.
That's right. Yeah.
He's like, you know what I really want? I want this shot of me walking out on stage, and I want you right behind me,
Yeah.
looking over my shoulder at the audience.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? You want me on stage with you?
Yeah.
And it was so hard for me to follow him out there.
Yeah.
I thought everybody was looking at me. They weren't. Nobody was looking at me. I thought I was like being
Yeah.
looked at, right? And it was so terrifying. So I have no idea how you do it.
So do you
But-
want me to share something?
Yeah.
I am nervous every single time I go on stage or in front of a group of people.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, I'm nervous. And I think a lot of us are. I speak with other professional speakers and they say, yeah, they have nerves every time. So
okay.
all of us do feel it to some extent or another. And I think what really helps me is the topics that I talk about and the clients that I choose to work with. The message I want to share, I'm very passionate about. And so when you're passionate about something and you know what you're sharing can benefit your audience, you take the shift from yourself and make it about who you're working with or for. And when you know, I've got this message, I know can help you, so I'm here to elevate you, to empower you, to inspire and impact you to make a difference in your world.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that kind of helps you kind of feel more comfortable.
Take it off myself and make it about
Make
them.
it about them.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What's important to them.
If people want to get in touch with you for business coaching or
Yeah.
personal development,
Absolutely.
contact
They
you.
can visit my website, saritaparmar.com, and shoot me an email through there. I'm always up for a virtual coffee, or if you're in Prince George area, I can come drop by and visit, and we can just chat about what your needs are and if I am somebody that you see yourself working with.
Excellent.
Yeah. The other thing, too, I will add, I am also very passionate about working with women in business. And so for all my female entrepreneurs, just women in business, you don't even have to have your own business. I sit on the board as the president for the Northern BC Women in Business Association. So we have events, learning opportunities, and essentially to create a community. We've got an upcoming it's a panel discussion. And we're bringing in an accountant, a lawyer, bookkeeper, and somebody to talk about how to get a loan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So for
Yeah.
all my women in business friends, and just share it. So, but anyways, get in touch with me. If you have questions, we can always have a quick chat, 15, 20 minutes, saritaparmar.com.
And speaker reel to be coming soon.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I cannot wait.
Yeah. Okay, great, Sarita.
Awesome. Thank you
Awesome
so much.
conversation.
Yeah, that was
Glad we could make
awesome.
it happen.
Thank you.
All right.